it's been a great start of the year. It wasn't easy, to be honest.
Carlos Alcaraz just hit 60 weeks at ATP #1, and he did it at just 22 years and 9 months old.
I had to be strong mentally with my team.
That age matters because of who couldn't say the same thing at that point in their careers. Roger Federer was 23 years and 7 months when he crossed this milestone, a player who finished his career with 310 total weeks at the top. Nadal was 24 years and 3 months when he got there, eventually logging 209 career weeks. Djokovic, the all-time record holder sitting at 428 total weeks, was 25 years and 6 months, nearly 3 full years older than Alcaraz at this exact checkpoint. He sealed the milestone in Doha, shutting out Arthur Fils 6-2, 6-1 in 51 minutes, and walked away holding 13,550 ATP points as the active world #1. Just the 13th player since official rankings began in 1973 to reach this number. One man in 53 years of professional tennis got here at a younger age, and that's the record still sitting on the table. Hit subscribe if you're not already on board. Coming up is the full historical breakdown, career totals, age comparisons, and exactly what this means for where Alcaraz sits in the all-time conversation.
I'll tell you, of all the players I've ever watched, at this age, I've never seen a player this good, this complete.
To understand the weight of this milestone, it helps to start with the moment itself. February 23rd, 2026, Doha, Qatar. Alcaraz had just walked off court after dismantling Arthur Fils in the final of the Qatar ExxonMobil Open. 6-2, 6-1, 51 minutes, barely a contest. It was his second title of 2026, his 23rd career title overall, and the result that pushed him over the threshold into his 60th career week at ATP #1. He left the court holding 13,550 ranking points, the highest active total on tour, and stepped into a historical conversation that only 12 other men in over 5 decades of professional tennis had ever been invited to join.
Thank God for Carlos Alcaraz, and I'm hoping that they're going to look at Carlos.
Think about what that number actually means. The ATP introduced its computerized ranking system in August 1973. Since then, 29 men have held the number, one position at some point in their careers. More than half of that group never came close to sustaining it for 60 weeks. The players who did reach that number represent something very specific, not just talented enough to get to the top, but resilient and dominant enough to stay there across seasons, surfaces, and entirely different generations of competition. And here's the line that puts the whole thing in perspective. Those 3 men who couldn't say they'd done this at Alcaraz's age collectively spent 947 weeks at #1 and won 66 Grand Slam titles between them. Alcaraz beat all of them to this checkpoint, at 22 years and 9 months old. Alcaraz first reached #1 in September 2022, becoming the youngest player in ATP history to hold the position at 19 years and 4 months old.
Carlos Alcaraz wins his first major, world #1.
That was a landmark moment in its own right, but reaching #1 for the first time and sustaining weeks at the top are 2 entirely different challenges. The ranking system rewards consistency across a full 52-week rolling window, meaning a player cannot simply peak at one tournament and coast. Every week at #1 has to be defended, rebuilt, and maintained through an unforgiving calendar of Grand Slams, Masters events, and 500-level tournaments spread across multiple continents and surfaces. By late December 2025, Alcaraz had accumulated around 52 career weeks at the top. The jump from 52 to 60 happened across roughly the first 8 weeks of 2026, built on the back of a 2025 season where he went 71 wins and 9 losses, took 2 Grand Slams at Roland Garros and the US Open, claimed 3 Masters 1000 titles, and finished the year as ATP year-end #1 for the second time.
Becomes the youngest ever world #1.
That second year-end #1 made him only the second active player to secure the honor more than once, alongside Djokovic, who has done it 8 times. What makes the 60-week total even more meaningful is how it was built. It hasn't been one unbroken stretch of dominance. It has come in concentrated bursts, separated by periods where Jannik Sinner held the top position. That back and forth between the two has defined the recent landscape of men's tennis. And every week in Alcaraz's total had to be earned against a rival who is himself one of the most formidable players the sport has produced in recent years. There was no free accumulation here. Every single one of those 60 weeks was contested. This is the part of the story that most people haven't fully processed yet. The claim that Alcaraz reached 60 weeks at number 1 before Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic ever did is not a stretch or a hot take. It is a straight factual statement backed by the ATP's own historical data. So let's go through each one. Roger Federer was 23 years and 7 months old when he reached his 60th career week at number 1. This is the same Roger Federer who went on to finish his career with exactly 310 total weeks at the top, including the most celebrated consecutive stretch in tennis history, 237 unbroken weeks between February 2004 and August 2008. A player widely regarded as one of the 2 or 3 greatest to ever hold a racket. And yet at 22 years and 9 months, that milestone was still 9 months away for him. Alcaraz had already crossed it. Rafael Nadal was 24 years and 3 months when he got there. Consider what Nadal's career actually looked like by that point. Multiple Grand Slam titles, already an established force across all 3 surfaces, a player whose physical and mental resilience had become the defining characteristic of an entire era. His career total of 209 weeks at number 1 spread across 3 different decades makes him the only player in ATP history to hold the top ranking across 3 separate decades. At 22 years and 9 months, he was still 18 months away from this same checkpoint. Alcaraz was already past it. Novak Djokovic is where the comparison becomes genuinely staggering. The all-time record holder at 428 total weeks, a number so far clear of the field it may never be touched, was 25 years and 6 months when he reached his 60th week. At the top, that is 2 years and 9 months older than Alcaraz at the same marker. In tennis terms, 2 years and 9 months is an enormous window. That's the difference between a player still developing and one approaching their absolute peak. Djokovic built his 428 weeks through sustained excellence across 15 years at the elite level, and he is the greatest accumulator of number 1 weeks the sport has ever seen. But at this specific checkpoint, Alcaraz was nearly 3 years ahead of him on the calendar. The gap across all 3, 9 months ahead of Federer, 18 months ahead of Nadal, nearly 3 years ahead of Djokovic, is not a one-off quirk. It is a consistent pattern that reflects something real about the pace at which Alcaraz is moving through a timeline that the greatest players in the sport's history took considerably longer to navigate. To place Alcaraz correctly, it helps to look at the players sitting immediately around him on the all-time list. Jannik Sinner reached 60 weeks at number 1 at the age of 23, older than Alcaraz, though still younger than Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic. His current career total sits at 66 weeks, making him the immediate target on the cumulative list. 6 weeks is a gap that can disappear within a single strong run of results, and the rivalry between these two means that gap will be one of the most watched numbers in tennis over the coming months. Pete Sampras reached this milestone at 22 years and 313 days, just 19 days older than Alcaraz. Sampras went on to spend 286 total weeks at number 1, underpinned by 6 consecutive year-end number 1 finishes between 1993 and 1998, a streak that defined an entire decade of the sport. The fact that Alcaraz sits within 19 days of Sampras on the all-time youngest list is not a trivial detail. Sampras is considered one of the defining players of his generation, and Alcaraz is essentially level with him at this checkpoint. Above both of them sits Lleyton Hewitt, who got to 60 weeks at number 1 at 21 years and 316 days in early 2003. Hewitt finished his career with 80 total weeks at the top, modest compared to the players who followed him. But on the specific question of age at this milestone, he is the only man in 53 years of professional tennis who arrived faster than Alcaraz. That record belongs to Hewitt permanently. Alcaraz cannot go back and break it. But everything from this point forward, the total weeks accumulated, the sustained presence across seasons, the long-term footprint on this list, is still being written. 60 weeks is not a destination. In the context of where the all-time leaders sit, it reads more like an opening statement than a conclusion. Sinner's 66 weeks is the first number in front of Alcaraz on the cumulative list, and closing a 6-week gap against a rival he has consistently matched is a realistic short-term outcome. Sampras sitting at 286 is the medium-term historical benchmark that will start coming into focus over the next 3 or 4 years. Federer's 310 represents the long-term standard for anyone looking to leave a genuinely generational footprint at number 1. And Djokovic's 428, well, that's the number that changes the entire conversation if it ever comes within realistic range. At 22 years and 9 months, Alcaraz has 2 year-end number, 1 finishes, 6 Grand Slam titles, 13,550 ranking points, and a career that is still very much in its early chapters. The foundation is not just strong, it is historically unusual for a player at this stage. Most players who eventually built significant week totals at number 1 were not sitting at 60 weeks before their 23rd birthday. Alcaraz is. The milestone on February 23, 2026 was significant not just because of the number itself, but because of how early in his career it arrived and how much runway remains ahead of him. The numbers are on the table. Now you tell us. Subscribe, hit the comments, and give us your take on whether Alcaraz ever gets close to Djokovic's 428.